The first board broadcast coming to you from the American Board Goat Association. I'm Jason Brashear, and I got Josh Taylor, co-host here, and we are absolutely ecstatic to come and bring you the most up to date news out of the association. Talk about the board goat industry, the meat goat industry, and kind of everything that goes around that. We're really excited to put this together and really be the voice and be a mouthpiece, so we can share, we can educate, we can talk about what's happening in our industry. And this will be a monthly deal, the first Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Central. You're going to see my bald head and Mr. Josh Taylor. So, Josh, yep.
I've got bad lighting, so I'm gonna probably be wearing a hat. But that's pretty funny that you said we're gonna be the mouthpiece. There's a lot of people that have called me a mouthpiece before.
I've been called that several times. So,
yeah.
So how are you today, Josh? How's things
Man,
out?
I'm good. I'm busy. Things are cooking around here, the fairgrounds in Stillwater, but I'm just like you, and I'm pretty excited about this opportunity. I was really surprised and honored that they asked for me to be a part of it. And I think it's one of those deals, right, where it's just going to be you and I talking. We're going to talk about all the good, the bad, the ugly, the relevant. But I think it's probably one of those things that's necessary. This has been a long time coming, right? There's been people that have thought that this needed to be done for years. And this is going to be a great opportunity. It ties in with what's happening with the association as a whole, and with everything that the board's been doing. And I'm pretty pumped. I know I've got all this stuff printed out. We're probably not going to follow it.
We're probably not going to follow it. But, one of the things we talked about was why we're repicked, and and I think we're both just extremely honored. But we both kind of bring not only our experience with goats, but your experience in working with other breed associations and the way that they do things. My experience in really working in nonprofits and kind of spending my career doing that, I think gives us a little bit of advantage. We may not always talk goats or livestock. We may talk about how associations are ran and the purpose and function of those.
And the pitfalls, the roadblocks, the setbacks that you always get. I know. And so, so for some of y'all that maybe don't know, I have had a long career in the cattle industry as a ranch manager, various roles at various ranches, sat on several committees for different breed associations through that time, left there and went to work for a cattle breed association for a couple of years, sat on the marketing committee, the breed improvement committee, was a member of the commercial marketing team, gained a lot of the ins and outs of bigger association work, with that group of folks and that board. They also had their own foundation, which totally different board, totally different group. Yep. And so, but it was interesting to see how that foundation worked with the association, some of the things that are going to happen now with the ABGA. And so now currently, as the director of this facility, I have another board that I deal with regularly. Yep. And along with county government side, which is a whole other wrinkle we don't even need to get into. That takes a big iron to get that one out. But yeah, so it just adds a little bit of flavor with that kind of experience to maybe understand what the ABGA board is going through, how they need to handle things, what the steps are, what the processes are, and then maybe even looking at it a lot of times from Caleb's perspective too.
So. Absolutely. As an executive director of a nonprofit, I talk to Caleb a whole lot and understand that, and understand working with boards and just the duties that's put on you as being that manager and kind of that steward of that organization. But you talk about the foundation, and I was talking to a breeder about a month ago, and they were like, "What is this foundation? Why is the ABGA not doing this?" Which we'll talk about the upcoming summit later in our podcast. But they were like, why is the Air Association not doing it? Why did it have to be somebody else? And I was like, they're the same. It's in essence, we have a foundation, and that gives us that nonprofit, our 501c3. That means that your donations to that become tax write-offs, and there's so many positives for having kind of that true nonprofit arm and not just a nonprofit. I guess was a 501c5 membership organization, which is a little different when it comes to taxes. And so I think there's a little bit of confusion, but when you see the American Boer Goat Foundation and ABGA, and you see them working together, it's because they're very closely together. They're tied. The foundation is that fundraising arm, that education arm, and it's exciting that we finally get to that point because we can start looking at research dollars. And I come from extension. I spent 10 years working in extension, and I get so daggum aggravated because all the research that we were doing was on Kikos or Spanish or fainting goats or pygmies, crazy things, and not a whole lot was being done on Boers. And it really come down to who was trying to finance that, and who was putting research dollars in there. So now that we have this foundation, we've got an arm that can apply for grants to do research to try to figure out easier ways to raise these things, and and that's pretty exciting. So right. Before we jump into some things, how did you get involved in the goat industry?
I think my story is probably much like a lot of parents did it for their kids. I was actually in Fort Worth at the Fort Worth Stock Show with cattle, and during the old schedule, when the open cattle were there, that was when the market goats were there. Right. And the market goats every evening around 6:30. We couldn't tie cattle out of the barns until 7. 6 or 6:30, all these market goats would come down the back lane exercising, and we'd stand out there and watch them. And I was like, man, those are cool. I mean, I would get some for the kids. So kind of just dove in that way. And then, like everybody else's story, what turned into 4 or what started as 4 turned into 40. And then it just, kind of gets away from me a little bit. But then halfway into the second year, I decided that I'd certify as a judge, and we just kind of rolled on from there. And so, yeah, increased herds, decreased herds, yep. Got back in 2-3 different times, depending on, life situations. But yep. Yeah, it grabbed a hold of you a lot, pretty early, more than expected, and so just stayed in it. But how long have you had them?
So I started in goats. I am 45 years old, and I started raising goats when I was 8. We had a hillside, and when I say hillside, we're probably 45-degree slopes or higher, steep Appalachian Mountains. I wanted to raise cattle. I wanted to show cattle. Nobody around here did any of that stuff. But we were eat up a multi-floor row, so I started just with some scrub goats in the early 90s. And when Boers were introduced, we brought them in, and we bought our first kind of Boer cross percentage buck in 98, and then started in registered goats in 99, and kind of been at it ever since. And for us, it was I could raise a whole lot more goats and a whole lot better goats on our hillside than I could ever think about raising cattle. And when I was in high school, I had maybe 8 or 10 head of cattle, and I thought I was something. But goats was just a much better fit for us on our mountain farm. And in college, we ran a 300 head commercial herd. And then after college, we kind of focused back into just raising just goats, and we still got about 60 head, I guess.
And I'll get into this question real quick, and it's going to segue into the start of this script, I think. But from when I started and when you started, the the foundation of the association was a lot different.
Very much.
And, the way it operated, the characters that were involved in it, the icons of the breed that were not around anymore, but they were the ones that truly were legendary within this breed and with the association. And, the utmost respect for those guys that actually just gritted through and started an association like this with all the turmoil that there was back in the 90s, with multiple associations, how the ABGA came out of it. And then as it starts to evolve and everything gets a little bit more fluid, and you have that roller coaster of registrations and membership, and that's your revenue stream, right? To fund things and to do these programs and to support the juniors and to do all the things that membership wants to see an association do. It's a struggle at times. And so you've got to really focus and just kind of have a specific set of priorities of, we need to do this. How can we fund it? How can we get there? We've seen some growth. We've seen some decline. I think we're in an upturn in the cycle a bit. I think we've all seen that, right? And I think probably 3 years ago we didn't.
Yeah.
Now we are. And whether it's membership, whether it's the youth involvement, which we know that's just grown exponentially, right?
Absolutely.
And so everything that has been, if the old saying is, if you're not changing, you're not moving forward.
Yep.
Because you can't, obviously we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, and neither is the board. The association is an association, but there's certainly, you can add a little bling to the wheel. You can do things a little bit different.
Right.
And this rebrand, the whole marketing rebrand, the focus of everything that's been happening that came out on Friday, right? This is all new stuff. And there's a lot of folks that have thought this needed to be done a long time ago.
Absolutely.
And now we have a board that's set it as a priority. They've welcomed the digital age. They're wanting to move forward into modern marketing, to be able to use this thing across all platforms of social media, YouTube channels, Facebook, whatever. And so, we've all seen the feedback, right?
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, it's inevitable. Everybody's going to see the feedback. I think what you and I are here to do is to not just focus on the negative or the super positive, but why are they doing this? Why? I mean, what's going to happen, and why does it need to happen? And so, yeah.
Absolutely.
What's your thoughts on some of that?
I think it needs to happen. One, I would urge anybody that's raising registry goats to really think about your brand, and how how do you use that brand, because you have to build a brand, but occasionally that brand evolves. Occasionally things change, and we have done, being in this industry a long time, we have brought our goats, the quality of our goats, exponentially better today than they have been. And it's a great kind of fresh, not a fresh start, but it builds some excitement. We have such a demand for American boar goats internationally, and it's important for us to kind of say, okay, here's what we're working on. And I think anytime that our mission doesn't change, but anytime we really start to change our focus, and we want to make sure that we're doing research, and we want to make sure that we're promoting the commercial side of things. And we're going to get into it when we get into commercial corner and talk about the value of using a boar buck over Spanish cross does, and how that can improve your bottom line. If we want to do that, those are things that we haven't. We've been a breed registry, and we have registered goats, and we've had shows, and we've promoted that. But as we look to do more things, sometimes it's great to get a fresh look to kind of get the ball rolling. I work at an organization that was started in 1913. When I come in, the first thing I did was change our logo.
Right.
And it wasn't a drastic change, but it was
Yeah.
a small change just to signify that we're kind of moving into just a different era. And good, bad, or ugly, you love it, you hate it, it doesn't matter. It's good growth for our industry. It's good growth for our association.
Well, and so it's brand evolution.
Yep.
And it's your brand is it's fluid. It's ever changing. You can't do the same thing and all the time. Even McDonald's changed the menu a little bit.
Yep.
Right. Even Coca-Cola changed the look of their can.
Yep.
So after umpteen, right? It's not just a logo change. It is a full brand evolution, and that's everything from how the association is now going to communicate with members.
Exactly.
And it could be how the messaging is presented, how things are just more available, whether it's on the website, whether it's for a newsletter, things of that nature.
And it really goes back into intentionality, and not that we wasn't intentional before, but we're kind of bringing that back into focus and being very intentional about our messaging and about what we're doing. And I think it's a smart move, and I'm excited to kind of see what's coming out of it. From what we're hearing and what we know, it's going to be pretty exciting.
Oh, I think when we go back and talk about that growth to the association and the organization as a whole, whether it's membership or even if you don't see the huge just straight uphill increase in the spike of membership or in registrations, you do see growth. Even if you stay flatlined in your growth pattern, everything starts to spread out across the country. So we're north to south, east to west now. We've got those goats were so tightly encompassed into certain geographical areas when you and I started. Now it's all spread out. How do you get to all those people with all the right types of communication and let them know what programs are available, what's happening here, what's happening here? You have to bring yourself up to the modern age in digital communication, and that's part of this rebrand. And it helps all the new breeders, right? And so we all, as judges, we get it.
Yep.
As just people that have been around forever, we get it. We get the questions all the time. So this is going to maybe put some of that and take some of that away from us, where they can get online, they can see things a little easier, and catch up with the growth of the association.
Absolutely. And I think, you keep saying communication, and that's all it is. This is just a communication change, nothing operational. It doesn't change the association, what we do, what we stand for, anything else. It's just the way that we market ourselves to the world, and the world's watching. And that's the way we market ourselves and communicate with our members, so we can get better at that, because we've heard it. We hear it as judges all the time. Well, what are they doing? What's this doing? Well, with this rebrand, there's going to be better and more up-to-date communications and an easier way to grab that. So it's not asking judges, or, you're not all the time trying to ask somebody down the street what is happening in ABGA. You're going to find out, and this is part of it. And and I'm excited to be a part of the podcast, because I think it gives us just an opportunity to spread, because there's a lot of good going on in the association, and we can get out there and I think sometimes we lose some members because they get on Facebook and they read and they see things, but there's a whole lot of positive, and that's the things that we can talk about, and we can also address we all have problems. There's problems everywhere, but there's a lot of positives. There's a lot of positives we can bring a lot to in this podcast moving forward.
Well, and it's I'm doing it right now with the Expo Center where I work. I'm getting ready to change the website. It's been that way. It is what it is for the last 12, 13 years. And it's everything from old pictures to old graphics to old, click down menus, things like that. If you look antiquated, you tend to act antiquated sometimes.
Yep.
I had a baseball coach that we would go and fundraise, right? You go do car washes, whatever. I can't remember what it was. Hell, it was so long ago. But he he would always buy us really nice uniforms. He said, if you look good, you play good.
Yep.
He said, you have a better attitude. I'm not saying that's what the board was thinking, but I mean, it's you membership does have a different mindset when the website changes. They get on there, it's a fresh look, it's more up to date, it's kind of what they see on TV, or when they go through clickbait ads where they're constantly scrolling on Facebook and Instagram. And if you don't think you're constantly scrolling, I bet you really are.
Look at your phone usage.
Yes, track it. I guarantee you are. But those are just some of the things, they're going to update the website. That newsletter that's going to come out every month now.
Yep.
Once a month. It's free to subscribe to.
Yep.
You get on there. There's, you'll be able to go and look at the archive newsletters on the website. The up-to-date ones, the new ones are going to come to you. And it's going to tell you all about what's going on in the association.
And that the big change on the newsletter, we've been doing a newsletter, but we're going from twice a month to once a month. And you think, whoa, we're talking about more communication. Well, sometimes less is more. We all have email fatigue. I probably, if I look at my phone, I think I got 25,000 unopened emails.
Oh my God, that would cause me to have a heart attack.
I'm one of those folks. They just, it's fine. Or I keep telling myself it's fine. It's fine. But sometimes it's better to communicate once and communicate everything you need, because some folks are like me and it gets lost in the shuffle. If I've got one and I know that it comes out, is it the second Thursday of the month? I think Caleb he can tell us about that. But the second Thursday of the month, you kind of know to look for it. And that's something else. Part of this rollout is that we're being, once again, real intentional in communication. We're always going to be that first Thursday. The newsletter comes out the next Thursday. The following Thursday is the board meeting. So, we get into the schedule, we get into this rotation, and we develop this culture amongst our members of when to expect things and how they can, how do they digest, and how can they learn to digest what's happening association wide.
Right. I tell you, did you see all the merch?
Man, it's sharp
on
ain't
the
it?
Website.
It's
I
great.
have it's crazy how so that was a big deal with the logo, right? So
Exactly.
they transitioned to that new logo because it's easier to put on shirts and hats and jackets and all that stuff. Regardless of what you think about the logo, it's fresh, it's new, it's easy to pattern onto a coffee cup or whatever, right? The old logo, it's still going to be on the papers. It's still going to be the seal, right?
Yeah.
But that new one goes and all that new merch that they just dropped. And if there is one thing I have found around here, I have t-shirts, some button-up shirts like this, and a couple pullovers that I have my staff wear, because when they have to go out and staff events, like I've got a big home and garden show this weekend, right? So I'm going to have staff showing up at different shifts and whatnot, and they're keeping everything. So I want them to look nice.
Yep.
And so I bought them some pretty decent stuff. Yep. And now it's every event I get somebody, hey, can I buy one of those? No, you don't work here. I'm sorry. But with the ABJ store, you can buy all you want.
You can, when you go to the store and look at it, it just looks good. It pops, whether you like it or not. It doesn't. It is irrelevant. But we got a great store that's offering some great products to promote our association. And local changes are hard. I work for a nonprofit, a local food nonprofit that went through a branding initiative, and I'll never forget how disappointed I was. They come through and they pulled these textures and these colors out, and we were doing local food farmers market type work, and they had it was almost looked like a patchwork quilt, but it was really hard for me to understand why. I hated the logo until the person explained why it was the way it is and what it was supposed to represent. And maybe Caleb can talk, as we bring him in here shortly. He can talk a little bit about that, and the rest of the rollout of what's going to be changing in terms of the website and social media and all of that.
Well, I think that's a good segue.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and bring Caleb in.
Caleb on in.
I think we can kind of get a little background from him on, this just nobody thought this up overnight. This thing's been a long time coming. It's been talked about through numerous different boards. And we've got some board members now that have, put their thumb on the button and said, hey, we're going to do this. Let's make it happen. So Caleb, welcome to the Boar broadcast, the first edition.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and excited for you guys to host this. And obviously this is a big part of our rollout in this communication, is what you guys have been talking about, this podcast, and the idea behind it's been a long time coming, and kind of rolling out at the same time with that. Like you just talked about, the logo change and this just rebranding has been a fairly long time coming as well. And so, yeah, give a little background on that, and you guys can kind of ask questions as we go along. But to kind of lead in on that, the board really kind of started this board started it really at last year's initial face-to-face, when this board, as it stands, first met in July last year. They started talking about our marketing and our communications, and felt like that was something that they pushed me to want to grow and to expand. And so the first thing they did pretty early on either in the July or August meeting, was to go out and find some different marketing and communications firms. And I presented those to them. And the first thing we did was to hire someone to do a communications audit. And that's the first thing they did, because the board didn't want to make any decisions. Just they wanted to say, let's get some professionals in here. Let's go have them look at our website. Let's have them look at our branding. Let's have them look at our communications across social media and newsletters and different things. And what's it look like, and what's someone that is in communications all the time and works for different companies and does their communications, what do they think? So we hired a firm to do that audit. And then that led us actually into a longer term relationship with them, where the board, one of the things that came out of the audit was that we're pretty inconsistent in our marketing, we were really maybe pushed a lot of stuff out, but it didn't look the same. We had different formats. The website was a little clunky. One of the biggest things they said was our logo does not translate well across modern era. It was built when the association started, and we're not going to downplay the value of that logo, but it wasn't built to be a modernized digital logo. And so that's where those discussions started at. And through then that process, then in about really the 1st of November, we actually went to where the communications has transitioned over from being in-house to where we had staff full-time kind of handling that, to taking that out to a contract basis. And so that is where that's kind of been developed through. I know, obviously, and I can see the association, the Facebook questions and comments, and know that there's lots of likes and dislikes. And again, as you guys mentioned, we're probably not going to necessarily go into that, but do want to address some of the concerns on where that came from. And one of the questions I think that's fair for members always to ask, and Jason, you can hit on this as an executive director of a nonprofit. I think members have that right to know things like, hey, my money's paying for these things. How much extra did this cost, and why did do those things? So
Right.
I would tell you that when we switched to this marketing firm to do all of our marketing and communications, which includes this rebranding, we actually, it was a cost savings to the members. We actually are lower on our marketing and communications budget as far as what we're paying for that dedicated to it by contracting that out and what we were doing in-house. And so then that was included in there. And so I think, that's an important thing to tell the members is that we were not spending $40,000 or $50,000 extra money trying to do this rebrand and these things. It's part of our holistic communications and contracting that out with this firm. And this firm that are livestock people, I will say that they are more so heavily on the cattle side, but different cattle associations kind of represented amongst their team. We really get 4 or 5 well-trained communications people that whether they help with design or they help with the emails or they help with the website, they kind of have different people that help with different things. And so they help us with that and several different cattle associations that they represent onto there. And so that is, kind of the story on the timeline of it, where it came from, etc.
Can we, don't want to interrupt your train of thought, but I want you to touch back on the communications audit.
Me too.
Because so I went through one of these with a breed association. Their findings were the exact same as what that firm has found with the ABGA. That not that it was necessarily didn't translate well digitally, but it was the formatting, right? The material that you put out, whether it's a newsletter, an e-blast, whether it's just written content, as far as if you put an article onto the webpage, when you have that consistency with the formatting, that's something that people do not think about ever. When it looks different every time, somebody's eye is liable to just glance right past it, and they won't look at it. If all your messaging looks the same, has the same logo, same format, same font size, same color pattern, you're liable to get more eyes on it. So is that kind of what they kind of translated to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And to talk again, some members asked, and I think fair questions, right? There were some tough questions on there, but I think fair questions. And why was the change needed? Whether you liked it or disliked it, that's, I think, a common question. Well, why? Was there something wrong with the old logo? And we're keeping that logo as the seal to keep the history and the tradition and the heritage. And that's something that I hope the members know and understand is that, hey, we're not trying to say that we're completely doing a shift and going a different direction. It's really a double down on the true mission and values of the association, but it's to allow us to grow in those areas. And so that seal logo type logo just did not translate. I mean, just really think about it. If members don't know, I work remote, so I'm not in the office on an everyday basis. But when I go over, one thing we do have in there is some of the old Boar Goat magazines that started back in, and so they had an edition from '95 on there. And so I can't tell you if that when this kind of seal logo was made, but it was in the '95 logo.
Yeah. Well,
the web, I don't think you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that the World Wide Web was even invented in 1995, let alone Facebook or Instagram. Some of these different things that we translate to look on your mobile phone and how it translates there and looks at those things wasn't there. And so that's exactly like Josh, what you said in those audits is that it's not necessarily anything was wrong with that logo. It just wasn't built for the same purpose. It was built to be the seal and in that way, but boy, those letters, if you put that on a small deal, you can't really read all of those neat things in there. The goat loses all of its ability to be embroidered on there. If anyone's ever tried to embroider that onto a shirt and try to get a staff shirt like you were talking about for your group, Josh, like it was tough for us to brand in that way, and for us to be out and to have that. And so that was their suggestion. And so they designed it. That professional team came through and started with several different options. They revised them, brought them to the board at the December face-to-face was kind of the first introduction of a logo change on what they looked at a couple options. Board kind of narrowed it down, looked at some different options, went back and forth, and then kind of continued to revise to the option that we went to. And there were several different kind of renditions of different logos that they looked at. And this is the one that the board ultimately decided to go with. But again, as you guys mentioned, while yes, 100% of logo is important because it kind of represents it, we want the members to know that this rebrand, this rollout, the countdown, the buildup that we kind of had for that, yes, was about the logo change, but it's also about just doubling down for the members on what we want to do going forward in promoting the boar goat and reestablishing the American boar goat as the dominant meat breed in the United States, in the world, and that not only the boar goat, but the American boar goat and what the producers here and ABGA members are producing the goats that everyone should kind of seek after. And so that's the really goal behind it. And that's the intention behind that.
I think one of the things, and sometimes, and it's really hard to communicate everything from the board level to every member. But the fact that this wasn't, I think sometimes we get in this, we read it, and our reaction is, oh, this was just a whim of the board and they got it. The fact that it has taken, and to build a good logo, it takes a long time. But the fact that we had our audit first, because in today's world, our website today, if I get it on my phone and I'm going to say, it's been a while since I've seen 60, 70, maybe 80% of users look at websites on their phone. I would say our percentage could be a little higher than that. Our website's not the easiest to navigate on the phone. We have some issues, and in brand recognition is one of the things that we all need to be thinking about. Not only our association, but just in general. We have to sell ourselves. So we need everything that we put out needs to look the same. If we go back and think of some of the best livestock photographers we see, they all look the same. They're all pictured the same. Their legs are all set the same. They have a very very similar background. You remember those because there's been a brand built around it. We now have a system, exactly, and we're being intentional about this. This was not something just thrown together. We're being intentional about trying to push forward, trying to grow, and with this, we do have some changes, and it is 2026, and unfortunately, I love the seal. I think there's a lot of positives for the seal, but in today's digital world, it just doesn't translate quite as well.
And that was ultimately the biggest reason for that change.
With all the changes, though, what's not going to change?
So you mentioned Josh earlier. That'll say the registration certificates will not look any different. That will continue to be our seal logo up at the top of the certificate. So from a look standpoint, that's one of the main things that won't change. More importantly, and I think you guys mentioned this earlier, the mission is not changing. The value to the members and what this association does of being a member-driven organization, that we are a breed registry first and foremost. So that's, to me as executive director, that's, we have to be good at our member services. We've got to provide an opportunity to actually pedigree your goat and maintain with integrity that pedigreed system and the heritage and history of that lineage of those goats. And then it's to protect, promote, and the integrity and the boar goat breed. And so that's where you'll start to see us really push more on trying to, like I mentioned, reestablish the boar goat as the dominant meat goat breed. And so that mission is not going to change. It's going to be a double down on it to try to increase market share for our breeders in the commercial world. And when I talk commercial world, that's real world livestock production, meat market. I know sometimes in the show ring we call commercial stuff weather bred stuff. When we talk on this podcast, I think you guys will we'll refer to that as the weather style, and we probably at times you two will talk on that. When I talk commercial, I'm talking people that want to go buy a boar buck to put out on their commercial nannies to increase the value of their kid crop and to get into that. And you guys, I know, will talk in the commercial corner on that. And we want to bring that back. Yeah, we hear the membership. Lots of members go, what are you doing for us outside of the show ring? We hope that members will start to see that. We hope they'll start to see more education. Our education committee is working really hard to provide some new resources, to again double down on our focus on the juniors, to start to do more research, to member services. We're all of those pillars of a strong breed association is not changing. We're doubling down on it, trying to improve those for our members. You guys did mention, you guys talked about it already, but the website, they'll see that it'll be a little while that anyone's ever gone through a website rebuild, especially as big as ours is. That'll take our team a little while to do. We're shooting for end of Q2, beginning of Q3 on when members will get to kind of see that. But that will be an exciting deal that should just make it more user friendly. Again, we want someone that, whether you've been a member forever or you're a first time and go, hey, I saw something about boar goats, and search ABJ and go to our website. We want it to be easy to become a member. We want it to be easy to navigate and find information they need to on our website. The newsletter, we'll see that redesigned coming out next Thursday. You'll see a redesign that's hopefully a little easier to read, especially on your mobile devices, and have a little wider and broader spectrum news for our members in that regard. And then this podcast is a big part of it, that we want to provide members to get in and listen and hear stories, and you just talk about the boar goat breed. So those are some of the changes they will see and some of the things that aren't changing.
Tell us about the annual report coming out. As a nonprofit executive, it's something I put a lot of time to craft, to share with our donors and our constituents. So tell us a little bit about when we can.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. It was one I hadn't mentioned. Members will see, and I don't know, I can't speak if one's never came out, but I don't know if I found one back in our archives of an annual report. And it is kind of a standard practice of a nonprofit association. And so the end of this month, that should be finalized. Our marketing team is working on putting that together. I think members, I'll just put some teasers out there on that. Members are going to see some neat things as far as some statistics goes. We're going to be real transparent about, you'll get to see membership numbers. You'll get to see registration numbers on how many we registered last year. We're going to provide some, interesting things on top 10 statistics as far as states and members and registrations go. We're going to hit on, you'll get to see highlights. We're going to be transparent with our finances so our members can see that. That'll be included in our annual report on, where we are from a statement of financial position, what our last year's statement of activity was. So again, it's going to be 2025's annual report coming out a little bit later. Moving forward, into next year, our 26 report will, plan to come out in January, February time that they can see that. But I think that'll be a really neat thing that it's kind of industry. We're not, as Josh and I talked about the other day, we're not creating any new great ideas. We're just kind of moving ourselves up to kind of nonprofit standards. And that's what we want to continue to do, is to operate this at that level of excellence and expectation of how a nonprofit and a livestock association should be ran. That's the goals.
I think one of the things that got brought up in one of our previous intro meetings before we did this was one of the potential benefits of this rebrand, of the newsletter, of the annual report, the shifting the look of the website, increased visibility, not just to the membership, but to everybody else. I'm sure that was brought up in that communications audit, and they kind of laid out hey, if you do this, it opens up all these doors. And so is that kind of where the board felt like if we're gonna grow this thing, membership wise, whatever, registration wise, this is something that has to happen. We have to be visible everywhere.
Absolutely. And we have to have those things kind of in place we have to be visible out to gain members. We have to be visible to our sponsors. We have to be compliant with IRS and state laws. And so those are all things that, as we've done audits of not only marketing and communications, but finances and everything else, that continues to build in that way. So we can be more marketable to everyone, grow our membership, grow the demand for the board goat. And as we grow that, we can continue to offer more programs. Jason, you talked earlier about the foundation just briefly and getting that up and going. That we've had a foundation for 4 or 5 years. It struggled to get up off the ground, and maybe one even before that, right? And so now we have one that are very actively, and the board members that are very actively pouring into that. And what that allows for is additional opportunities for us to collaborate, 2 separate entities working together for the same mission of promoting the board goat and the American board goat. And so 2 separate entities that aren't tied together from a financial standpoint, or it doesn't have to be. There can be some overlap that we have now with some board members is fine. And Josh, you can speak, and Jason too, how that's pretty common practice. But it's not just our a side thing that we use to our foundation is now outward and forward focusing and providing opportunities for our members. And so that's one other thing that I'd like to talk about, and members ask what's our money going to, what are we improving, what are we doing these things. Well, the summit, and I think people have questions about the summit, and you guys can ask me on what people have talked about. And I'm not executive director for the foundation. That they're a separate entity, but we work hand in hand together, and we have meetings. I have meetings with their board and discuss, and we want to collaborate and work together to promote the board goat. And the foundation jumped up and said, let us go and take on what we're going to call the educational summit. And I know we have some great state associations that put on these educational days for their members. The educational summit is a national educational opportunity for members to come together, collaborate, and it's not focused on the show ring. It's not focused on anything like that. It is focused on raising board goats, improving production practices, new technologies. And so I encourage members to really dive in and look at that. Know that it is fully backed by the association. We can talk briefly on the schedule in that regard, but you will see it promoted out. The foundation is promoting that, and I've even had some members ask, well, why isn't the association hosting something like that? We're hosting it together with them. They're taking that work on up front. We're supporting them in collaboration. But if you're a member of the association, you are invited. This is your summit. This is your place to come and get some of that added benefit.
And it's the last weekend in July, Kansas City at Margaritaville. Like, who doesn't want to go hang out at Margaritaville?
Absolutely. They went out and found an awesome facility. It is the 23rd, 24th, and 25th of July. Night of the 23rd is just kind of social. And then starting to announce some educational opportunities on the 24th. They have a fantastic set of speakers. A lot of extension and academia and industry folk coming in to talk, to cover things from, and this isn't our basic 101. This is for beginning. There'll be some sessions for beginning members. There'll be sessions for producers that have been raising them since they were 8, like you, Jason. I bet you'll learn something at the summit, and people that are going to be there that have a ton of knowledge. So it is held in conjunction with the face-to-face board meeting as well. And so members will have an opportunity to interact with that and sit in on some of those open sessions of the board meeting, and trying to increase the transparency and trying to create that collaboration where members can go and hear multiple things and kind of kill multiple birds with one stone, per se. We'll have more educational opportunities on Saturday, and then we'll wrap up with the ABJ annual meeting for the members. Will be Saturday evening. And then our annual banquet will be what concludes the event Saturday night. That's where we will officially recognize and give the awards for the ambassador of the breed. give a little teaser out for members to watch for some announcements about that coming out pretty shortly, as far as actually announcing it. But that award will be given out there. Our board of director awards will be given out there. Our ROH awards, our Roll of Honor Series awards for ABGA, will be actually given out there. And so kind of what has been at the national show, as far as the banquet there at the national show, will be there at the summit, held in conjunction with the summit. And the national show is now more just kind of standalone. We know lots of people go, so there's some pros and cons. We know a lot of our membership goes to national show. So some members may say it made more sense to do it there. It gets busy. Not everyone shows. We have a big membership, and not everyone goes to the national show. And so this is an opportunity to try to bring all sectors of the association together at that time. So an exciting part of the summit. They are offering a discount on early bird tickets through May 1st. Right now, tickets are $150. The foundation has approved today to reduce that price down to $100 for an early bird discount. And that's going to be a very nice catered dinner at the banquet. So you're getting a nice fancy meal to go along with that, kind of essentially just kind of covering the costs is what you're doing at that.
And you get to stay at Margaritaville.
What's that?
And you get to stay at Margaritaville.
You get to stay at Margaritaville. Absolutely.
Not for that $100, I'm sure.
Not for the $100.
That does not include, hotel room additional, but we hope it's a great event. I really appreciate the foundation's work on that.
They do get another discount if they have a state affiliate code, right?
They do, yeah. So those of you guys that have a state association, if your association is an affiliate of the ABGA and pay their affiliates fee, they can get an additional discount as well on there to cheapen it up just even a little bit more for them. I think down to $75, I believe, is what that discounted rate can get down to.
Guys, this is such a great opportunity, and we talk about it. We hear it from members. I'm sure, Josh, you've heard it, and I know, Caleb, you have. As we're traveling around the country, people are always asking, how do we learn? How do we learn that next level stuff? You know, there's a lot of state associations. There's a lot of local groups or extension groups. It's kind of basic level, and that'll be there. But there's some really cool genetic talks. There's some really cool just kind of academia, and it's nice that we're kind of pulling. We're kind of bridging that gap between academia and real life production. And it's not just show ring focused. It gives everybody, whether you're using boar goats or boar bucks and boar cross does to just sell meat goats, or if you're trying to raise the next national champion buck, you can learn something there that can be beneficial and could possibly affect your bottom line.
I'm sure that there's some marketing seminars that folks are going to talk on. And it might be something as simple as, hey, maybe because we live here, we should kid at this time to hit a different market at a different time of year based on holiday, geographic area, whatever. And maybe we shouldn't kid 4 times a year, just consolidate things, do some basic production practices that'll help you in the long run economically. And, I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of that.
Absolutely. Will there be vendors there as well? Industry vendors?
There will be some industry vendors, yep, and they've got some sponsors for that, so collaboration there. And Josh, I think you could probably hit on a little bit. This is pretty, again, we're not necessarily being the front runners on there. We're probably coming into kind of standard livestock association practice that most associations have some type of convention summit type of deal for the members in this way, that I would say a lot of those are outside of their national show.
I don't know if there's anybody that has it at their national show anymore. Particularly cattle associations have all moved away from it. The Herefords still have their annual convention every year in Kansas City. That's where their headquarters are. It's been a long-standing tradition, but Kansas City's not their national show. It moves around all the time. Angus used to have their national convention in Louisville. Yeah. During the show every year, it got too big they weren't getting enough participation, so they moved it off site. Hell, I think last year they went to Orlando and had one.
And that's the long term dream and vision of some of these things that, and we know it's new, but I'm going to challenge the members to see it grow and see what it can become. You got to help us at the ground level, and this is the kind of inaugural year of it. We know it's a change, we know it's something different, but you want to find these opportunities for us to keep providing member services and these opportunities. This is the chance to come and show support and to learn. It's a multi-beneficial thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it also kind of is a good transition is that it's not just for show stock. It's for any producers. And I think that's a good transition as we get into our first commercial corner, which may not be as in depth as it gets as we figure this out. But Caleb, anything else you'd like to say in closing remarks before we?
No, I just appreciate you guys being willing to jump on and take this on. Members as they watch, I don't know. I'm guessing we probably had, and I watched early on a few people saying hello and different things, and just so members know, it's not necessarily maybe a traditional Facebook Live of answering questions isn't going to be the necessary part of that. Josh and Jason may hit on some opportunities for that going forward, but we want this to be a podcast style where it's just getting on and discussing. We don't want to discourage members. There'll be opportunities to submit questions and answer those things, but appreciate members getting on and listening and continue to watch this build. It'll be on our YouTube channel that people can go watch if they weren't able to join tonight. And excited to watch you two take this thing and run with it and grow. And I'll be excited to tune in every month and listen to you two have fun conversation back and forth. So appreciate you guys having me on tonight.
Thank you so much, Caleb.
Thanks, Caleb.
So, Josh, as we move into commercial corner, I think we wanted to keep this at about an hour, and we may have to speed this up just a bit.
It's fine,
but
nobody's going to care.
Goat markets are on fire right now.
Everything's on fire right now.
Everything's on fire.
Sometimes literally out here in Oklahoma.
Yeah, for real. We've seen kids here in Kentucky, hitting that $5 a pound rate, pushing that $5.25. I think I looked at St. Angelo report that just come out, and anywhere between $3.45 and like $4.80 a pound for commercial kids. And it's a good time to be in the goat industry. I mean,
were the 40 to 50 pounders the highest?
They were the highest.
Did they bump them up a bit to the 60s?
Let me see if I can pull that back up. What I did,
so I'll be anxious to see what they do here in town tonight at the every other week sale that we have down here in Perkins. Just where the weight ranges fall as far as the price breaks go, but they were pushing $4.25 a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, that was still just a nickel early for the Easter deal.
Yep.
But there's been a lot of inventory been pushed to the barns around here. And it's some of it was some older does, maybe they had some problems when they kidded at the first part of March or something like that, and they're just making room. But it's been dry down here. Yeah, man, dude, it sucks. There's not much to graze on down here at all. So I think that might have been a big push because the lighter weight kids were, it was pretty short.
We've been seeing a huge demand for just commercial does. It's been insane. I think just a weekly, just small stockyards here in Kentucky. They were selling just Nubian does for $4.75. They were selling some Bordeaux for $6.25 to $7.50. And this is at the sale barn for just goats. Just somebody decided to sell, and that's exciting to be able to see that. And I think as we look at markets just in general, I think we're starting to see our sales, our production sales, those prices start to climb back up after we kind of hit a little slump there post-COVID. And It's really exciting. But one of the things that I think is that I'm really proud of the association and this board kind of pushing is the fact of kind of reestablishing the Boer goats as the predominant meat breed. And one of the things that they're really interested in doing is trying to figure out how to frame research to prove that Boer appearing animals bring better money or bring a premium at the sale barn. So if anybody out there that's got some research knowledge or just thinks they have an idea of to do that, I think we've all seen it.
Yeah.
We want to be able to quantify that so we can go out there and tout to everybody that, and on average, you're going to get 20 cents more a pound for a Boer influenced kid than something else. And so trying to figure that out. And I think that's where the foundation comes in. They can help try to find the grant money to put that research in place, because we can say it all day long, but when somebody says, "Well, prove it," it's just anecdotal data. It's just us telling.
Imagine if you, with the foundation, right? So they start with the fundraising arm, right, of this whole big monster that we have. They get some dollars. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as a 501c3, they can go. How much can they donate, or they have to donate?
They have to donate a certain
30%.
30%.
Is it 30%?
Yeah.
They have to give away 30%. They have to give it away somewhere, right? This American Boer Goat Foundation is going to give this money out for these research projects. Imagine if we do a research project that said, if you use a Boer buck on a set of Spanish does, Kiko does, whatever, you're going to see kids wean off at 60 or 80 or 90 days, whatever, and they're going to have gained 0.23 pounds more per day than their contemporaries of another breed.
Yep.
What's that translate to in terms of time to slaughter, time on feed, conversion rates, all these things, right?
And marketability to our bucks. Once we know what a Boer buck can do, and what we can take on a La Mancha cross doe and put a Boer buck. We know what magic that can make, and what kind of meat animal that can make. But if we can quantify that to where then we can take it to producers, and when folks are looking, when I don't know that we have any major, 10,000 head or 1,000 head Spanish operations anymore. I think the droughts drove a lot of those out. But somebody that's got 1,000 head of Spanish in West Texas, like, why should they use a Boer buck? And we can, if we got data to back it up, it's a lot easier for us to start to sell those things. And that's really where it comes down to all of this, is that we are trying to promote the Boer goat as the meat breed, the predominant meat breed, the best meat breed. And to do that, we've in the commercial side, we've got to get some of this data. We got to do some of this research that we've not been able to do. So I'm excited about what's coming. And I think we got a whole lot of growth, but a whole lot of good growth coming ahead of us.
Yeah. And then put that data, right? Put it in the right format, get it all out there in that messaging. It ties all into this rebrand thing.
Absolutely.
And it all, if you can just think from a 30,000 foot view, it starts to make sense.
Absolutely.
And why all this happens, and it all ties together. And so there's some exciting things coming. That's for sure.
For sure. We've got,
like you said, though, we're running out of time.
We are running out of time. There's you got your sale list pulled up.
Yep. I got it right here. We're going to kind of do that commercial corner, folks, right? We'll get more in depth. Trust us. This is the first go around. Jason and I have both been busy. It's okay. But I'm going to blame it on Caleb. He talked too long. We'll just blame it on him. But we're going to try to close out with just the shows, sales, events that are coming up. We'll get into our nationals next episode. We're going to get more in depth on what's going to happen at the nationals and all that. But as far as shows and sales, there's a lot of shows, and there's a couple of we got 3-4 sales. Cowboy Classic sale here at my place, my fairgrounds. Jason's coming down. I'll see him tomorrow. We've got the Throckmorton's online sale. They're doing a JABGA donation lot with 2 straws of semen. That's going. Those proceeds go to the JABGA. Bootjack Wars, their annual Making the Grade sale, it also has a JABGA donation lot. Talk about why that's important. What do they get when they do that?
If you will do a JABGA donation lot in your sale, you get some free promotion. We'll talk about you on the podcast. You'll get promotion out in the e-blast. So if you want to get your sale out here and mentioned and really pushed, make sure that you got that JABGA lot, donation lot in there. Good way to help the kids get a little publicity for not a whole lot of investment on your behalf.
2 straws of semen.
2 straws of semen, and we're good to go. And that's pretty exciting to be able to do that. I do want to mention, Caleb just texted and said, don't forget the Next Generation sale. Next Generation sale is coming up. American Boar Goat Foundation and the JABGA Next Generation sale on April the 28th. On Goat Promoter donation, 50% of the final sale price will be tax deductible under the American Boar Goat Foundation. So if you buy anything in there, 50% of that is tax deductible.
Even better.
It's going into the JBJ National Show and the American Boar Goat Foundation Scholarship Fund. So if you would like to donate for that, maybe get a hold of Rodney Wilson or Caleb, and be looking for that on April the 28th, the Next Generation sale.
There's also a Texas Boar Goat Association annual sale.
Fantastic.
They're doing theirs at the end of the month too. So I think that covers the sales.
There's all kinds of shows. What shows do you got coming up?
I'm going to go to Sedalia. Well, you and I both, we're going to judge together. Are we judging together?
We are.
We are, okay. So if you want a little comedic relief, maybe come up there.
Absolutely.
Watch Jason and I. And then I've got one end of the month in Greeley, Colorado, for the Weld County Goat Extravaganza deal.
Gotta love Greeley. One of my favorite shows to go to. I'm in Sedalia judging. Got a few sales coming up and vacation. So I'll be laying on the beach the last two Saturdays.
There you go.
Excited on that. Don't forget, guys, national show entries are open. We'll get into that more next time. And be watching Facebook. I'm sure our social medias will have something out. Caleb's going to develop a jot form where you submit your questions to us. So if you got questions, whether you want to know what cereal we like to eat of a morning, or kind of your burning questions about the goat industry, you can submit those, and we'll pick some of those out. We'll have our listener corner each time. But be sure to tune in next. I guess it's May 7th. It's the day before national entries are due. And we'll talk about all
what it is, May 7th.
May the 7th. We'll talk all things nationals and really kind of dive into what we can expect new, what we can expect returning, and get ready for a heck of a national show.
It's going to be fun.
It is. It is.
Are you coming anyway?
Well, I'll be there. And our next podcast will be at nationals. We'll get a chase.
We're going to try and do. I'm probably going to stay the whole time, and we can just do that thing live from the national show, and maybe have a couple of guest speakers.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
If we may have to vet them pretty hard, though.
Maybe.
Right. Well, man, it's been fun. I'm glad we got it kicked off. We didn't have any huge snafus or anything.
Not too bad. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure. And everybody out there on Facebook land and then YouTube,